Greetings, programs. Welcome to Stegosaurus Studios. I'm Mike, and I am back in hardware mode. Yay! So the design is finished. Well, not the design. The speeder bike design in Fusion is finished, and the orders are placed, and some of them come in. Send cuts end, and this box I'm not going to lift up because it's incredibly heavy. McMaster car. Also, just this morning, finished the 8020 order for the aluminum extrusion, and then the Rev has shipped already but hasn't arrived. So lots of stuff coming. And I'm recording this ahead of time, so I have no idea what I'm going to be working on. But it'll all be hardware. It won't be all this design stuff anymore. So I know, like, one of the things to probably be working on first is this is, you remember this, the drive, right? So in the original design, the steering arm went through these two holes, and the kingpin was going to be attached here. Not actually going to be using these holes. I'm going to be drilling two new locations. And so I have to disassemble this one. Up here is the other parts for the other drive, and I'll be drilling those holes in those two and putting the kingpins on. The ball joints for the kingpins are in that lower box right there. So anyway, stay tuned. Like I said, don't know what's coming. I'm sure it's going to be very disjointed because I can't start the 8020 stuff isn't here. That would be the logical place to start. So I'm just going to be doing little this, little that here and there. So anyway, we'll see what we get to. All right, these are the plates for the drives. So I've got marked in red here where the holes need to get drilled. So you'll note that I have the two plates taped together. I'm going to drill both at the same time. That way, if there's any, basically that way the plates are identical. If the holes aren't, exactly in the center, at least they'll be not exactly in the center the same way on both plates. So anyway, I'll got it taped, and then I'll also clamp it down and then do the drilling. So basically, the goal, this is the ball joint the two of them will make the kingpin, and that will go in those. Will go in those holes and make the kingpin. So, all right, I have the drives put together, and of course it took me 3 tries to get the second one put together. I'd already had the first one done, and actually we had tested it in a previous episode. So here's the new holes, the one there and one there. So this is one of our ball joints. Let's see if I can. So that goes in like that, and then this will be able to move up and down in relation to. So the two of them will, like I said, together make a kingpin. So those are together. Next step will be to mount these ball joints, and then I don't know, whatever the next thing is. All right, front wheel assembly. Let me pull back. That's like the whole thing. So anyway, front wheel assembly. We have our wheel, axle bolt, and nut. The wheel will sit inside this bracket, and you can see the holes for the axle. It's a 2-piece bracket, so there's 2 sections. This will be screwed to the top of that to basically hold those 2 pieces together. So this is the shaft. So if you imagine this upright with the wheel down below, the motor will turn this around, and that will do the steering. And then we have a couple of bearings. So this bearing that slides over the shaft, it is bolted to this plate. Then there's some pieces missing. So the 8020, there's an 8020 frame, and then another bearing, oriented like that, to another plate. So the 2 plates will be some distance apart, and then the shaft will stick out of the last bearing, and then the motor will be attached to the shaft to turn it. So I can assemble everything basically up to this first, but I can't. Obviously I don't have the 80/20 stuff yet, so I can't do this. Now, one thing though is, so we have this shaft holder, and it's basically just a pinch clamp. That's not going to be enough to hold that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this whole thing in the vise, or in the vise on the drill press. I'm going to drill a hole through this side, through the shaft, through the other side, and then I'll put a clevis pin in, and that will stop the shaft from turning. So it'll be, tight in the pinch clamp, but it'll also have that clevis pin. And I intend to get a precision clevis pin, so that it's a very tight fit between the pin and the hole that I'm going to drill. So anyway, that's the front wheel system, and I'm starting working on it. All right, let's see if I can get this to focus. So these are the two brackets that make up the wheel bracket, and the holes are supposed to line up, but those bottom ones, they don't line up. So the top ones, this is hard to do in the camera. The top ones actually line up fine, but those bottom ones, they don't. And so you can see those, that's where the holes, those red circles, where they actually line up. So I don't know how I screwed that up. I did it in Fusion. It's clearly messed up. So I'm going to drill those red circles out, and it should still work, but I hate making mistakes. I'm laughing because I just recorded this whole video just now, and I realized I had the heater on, and I didn't want to have the heater on running because it's noisy. So I'm re-recording it. Well, at least I had a dry run. So I'm wrapping up this episode here, but before I wrap it up, I'm going to talk about progress, things that have gotten done, and things that have gotten screwed up. I successfully drilled a hole through the shaft mount and the shaft, and this is just a temporary holder, pin. I need to actually order what's called a clevis pin. So clevis pin is, it looks kind of like a nail, but then there's a hole through the end that you put a cotter pin in. And you can get them in tight tolerances from McMaster Car, so it'll be a nice tight fit in here. If you're like me, like when I do a project, a plumbing project or whatever in the house, it takes me 3 trips to the hardware store to successfully complete it. And the same thing happens with McMaster Car. As soon as I place an order with McMaster, 5 minutes later, I find something that I should have ordered. So the clevis pin is on the list for McMaster Car. This bracket here, in my original design, was a single piece. It was not a 2-piece bracket. It was all one. It was just basically a single U-bend. And I didn't read Sen Cut Sen's bending guidance well enough. Their brake can't fit. This is too tight to do this bend. So I broke it into 2 pieces. And did the redesign, and of course screwed up the holes. Oh, by the way, I drilled new holes, so you can see it's all screwed on there. But anyway, with the 2-piece, these screws that hold it together were too short, so that was a trip to the hardware store to get 4 screws that fit that. But this is put together. This is a bearing holder, so this is a bearing, actually spins, and that slides down over that, and that will allow the wheel to turn. There'll be another plate and bracket with a aluminum extrusion separating the two, and then the motor on the top. And on this, these screws that I have are too short, and so these nuts are barely holding on. Like half of the thread is engaged, so these screws are also on the McMaster reorder. So par for the course. Let's talk about the wheel. So the wheel just clamps in this bracket, right? And so I initially I put it all together, and the way this thing works, there's an insert, there's a metal insert, and then there's these black plastic things that hold roller bearings captive. And this just, as you can see, it's quite loose. And I just clamped. You're basically clamping on that aluminum insert in the bracket. But what happens is, because this is loose, the wheel can slide back and forth, and then these black plastic things, they rub on the aluminum bracket, and they make quite a bit of noise. And they also take out some of the momentum. That's not good. That's not going to work. So I have to come up with a solution to this. On the drives, I use these same wheels on the rear drives, but those had a hub that was press fit with an arbor press in, and they're designed to hold a sprocket. So that particular hub won't work, but something along the same lines, a hub that has, for example, a bearing on this side, bearing on this side, so that the bearings are pressing up against the plate, that would work. So for now, I think I'm just going to go ahead and bolt this into the bracket so that I can build the whole speeder bike, and then at some point I'll design, or I doubt I'm going to be able to find one. I'll do some internet searching and see if somebody makes a hub that can be press fit in this that does that. I suspect I'm going to be designing one, and then I can either have it made, well, no matter what, I'm going to have it made. I know someone who has a lathe, so they could just order the material, and then he could do it on the lathe and do the bearing holders on it. So that's that. These ball joints. So the first one that I pulled out of the package for testing, in which I showed a video earlier, it moved pretty well. But this one, you really have to push on it in order to get it to move, and that's not going to work. That it has to be able to spin freely because the wheel is turning, and then the shock, it has to have shock absorbing, and this robot's not that heavy, so it's not like a Formula One race car. So I need to get a different ball joint. This isn't going to work. So this one in particular, it's PTFE, so Teflon lined, and they make several others and they're the exact same size, which is nice. They make one that has an oil fitting, so that, it has to be lubricated. They have one that's oil impregnated. So they have a couple different ones. So I'm going to call McMaster and see if I can. If they can tell me, if the person I talk to can tell me, are there a different design that actually moves? It's kind of weird because I have the same style but smaller, but the PTFE ones for the steering, and they're really loose. They work great. So when I got these, I was really surprised at how stiff it was, but not going to work. So I have to get that fixed. And then this is, I don't know if I mentioned, so this is the side. I know I talked about it the first time I recorded this, maybe not this time. The 8020 order is here, and I'm looking down because it's down there. In fact, I've already put the base frame together, but that'll be the next episode. But I want to talk about this. So this is a mess up that I did. So this piece, you can see it's got two 45s there. This 45 is supposed to be like that. So one like that and one like that. And so their website for specifying this is not that self-explanatory to me. So I got it wrong, but I emailed 8020 and I have a contact there now because I've talked to them, and got the right way to specify that. So I will be ordering, I have two of these. So I'll be ordering two of those along with the McMaster car. And who knows what other things I need to order. But So I think that's it. Like I said, I'm going to wrap here. Next episode, which I may actually even start recording today, will be the construction of the frame. It's proceeding. It's exciting. I'm very excited. And so we will see you next time for frame assembly. All right.